Private detective.
Private detective.
Private education.
Private education.
Private enterprise.
Private enterprise.
Private eye.
Private eye.
Privateer.
Privateer.
Private income.
Private income.
Private investigator.
Private investigator.
Private law.
Private law.
Private limited company.
Private limited company.
Privately.
Privately.
I must talk to you privately.
Laura praised the pictures, though she privately thought they were rather ordinary. Privately, Harriet had to agree. Privately, senior officials agreed that not many people had voted.
Both children are privately educated. A privately owned company. Private medicine.
Private medicine.
Private member.
Private member.
Private members bill.
Private members bill.
Private parts.
Private parts.
Private patient.
Private patient.
Private practice.
Private practice.
Richard set up in private practice.
Private school.
Private school.
Private sector.
Private sector.
Pay increases in the private sector.
Private secretary.
Private secretary.
A parliamentary private secretary.
Private soldier.
Private soldier.
Private view.
Private view.
Privation.
Privation.
The privations of wartime.
Privatization.
Privatization.
Privatize.
Privatize.
Privet.
Privet.
Privilege.
Privilege.
He had no special privileges and was treated just like every other prisoner. The privilege of a good education.
Today we have the privilege of listening to two very unusual men.
I had the great privilege to play for Yorkshire. It is a privilege to hear her play.
Wealth and privilege. Privy.
Privy.
Colby was privy to the committee's decisions.
Privy Council.
Privy council.
Privy Council.
Privy council.
Privy Purse.
Privy purse.
Prefix.
Prefix.
Prize.
Prize.
In this month's competition, you could win a prize worth £3,000.
The first prize has gone to Dr. John Gentle.
The prize for best photography has been won by a young Dutch photographer.
Scientists from Oxford shared the Nobel Prize for Medicine in 1945.
The prizes are awarded every year to students who have shown original thinking in their work.
The total prize money was £30,000.
Fame was the prize.
No prizes for guessing what she was wearing. No prizes for guessing what she was wearing.
He is someone who prizes truth and decency above all things.
The company's shoes are highly prized by fashion-conscious youngsters. The company's shoes are highly prized by fashion-conscious youngsters.
He has spent months cultivating what he hopes are prize flowers.
The Picasso painting is a prize exhibit in the museum.
Prized.
Prized.
The child held the bag as tightly as if it were her most prized possession.
Prize day.
Prize fight.
Prize fight.
Prize giving.
Prize giving.
The annual school prize giving. A glittering prize giving ceremony.
Prize winning.
Prize winning.
A prize-winning novel.
A prize-winning pianist.
Pro.
Pro.
A tennis pro.
The small gap between top amateurs and pros in golf.
Kathy's an old pro at organising raffles.
We discussed the pros and cons of going to university.
Most young talented players are determined to turn pro.
Pro basketball.
As a party, they had always been pro-family.
Pro.
Pro.
pro-American.
The pro-choice lobby.
The pro-vice-chancellor.
Proactive.
Proactive.
A proactive approach to staffing requirements.
Pro-am. Pro-am.
Probability.
Probability.
The probability of winning the lottery is really very low.
There is a 95% probability that she will not have the disease.
There's a high probability that the children will follow a different career.
You must decide whether, on the balance of probabilities, he committed the crime.
The probability is that smaller businesses will not have to pay the tax. The probability is that smaller businesses will not have to pay the tax.
A peace agreement now seems a probability rather than a possibility.
Mistakes could, and in all probability would, occur.
Probable.
Probable.
The probable cause of the fire was faulty wiring.
Success is highly probable.
It seems probable that the accident has damaged her brain.
The probable result of global warming will be a rise in sea levels.
Probably.
Probably.
It will probably take about a week.
This would probably be a good time to take a break.
It's probably the best movie I have ever seen.
Are you going to be able to do this? Yes, probably. Are you going to be able to do this? Yes, probably. Is she going to send it back? Probably not, no.
The building will be replaced, most probably by a modern sports centre.
Probate. Probate. Probate.
Probation.
Probation.
The judge sentenced Jennings to 3 years probation.
He pleaded guilty and was placed on probation.
A 3-month probation period.
People are appointed on probation. People are appointed on probation.
I'm afraid I have no choice but to put you on probation.
A probationary period.
Probationer. Probationer.
Probation officer.
Probation officer.
Probe.
Probe.
I don't want to probe too deeply into your personal affairs.
Police probed claims that he had sold drugs. Police probed claims that he had sold drugs. Jules probed the mud gingerly with a stick. Jules probed the mud gingerly with a stick.
A police corruption probe.
Probing.
Probing.
Probing questions. His probing eyes.
Probiotic.
Probiotic.
Probiotics have been reported to enhance digestion.
Probiotic yogurt.
Probity. Probity.
I've always found Bentner to be a model of probity in our dealings.
Problem.
Problem.
She was older than me, but that wasn't really a problem. The problem of street crime is getting worse every year.
I've been having a few problems with my car.
Does she have any long-term health problems?
If you have back problems, you should avoid lifting heavy objects.
Many people with hearing problems try to hide their condition. She refuses to admit to herself that she has a weight problem.
Is this a sign of some kind of deeper psychological problem? She gave us 20 mathematical problems to solve.
Can I bring a friend? Sure, no problem. Thanks for all your help. No problem. I've had no problem recruiting staff.
The problem is, there isn't enough time.
If you miss the train, that's your problem. We've got a serious staffing shortage. That's not my problem.
Problematic.
Problematic.
The reforms could turn out to be highly problematic. Problematize.
Problematize.
Teachers sometimes problematize the different learning styles of foreign students.
Problem page.
Problem page.
Problem solving.
Problem solving.
Tasks that involve problem solving.
Employees with good problem-solving skills.
Pro bono.
Pro bono.
Proboscis. Proboscis.
Probs.
Probs.
It'll be ready by 6. No probs.
Procedural.
Procedural.
Procedural rules.
Procedure.
Procedure.
What's the procedure for applying for a visa?
This is standard procedure for getting rid of toxic waste. This is standard procedure for getting rid of toxic waste.
All schools have disciplinary procedures they must follow. On board, we were given the usual talk on safety procedures.
Liposuction is a minor surgical procedure.
Proceed.
Proceed.
The government was determined to proceed with the election.
Before proceeding further, we must define our terms.
Work is proceeding according to plan.
Sammy took off his coat and proceeded to undo his boots. Sammy took off his coat and proceeded to undo his boots.
Passengers for Miami should proceed to gate 25.
The government was determined to proceed with the election.
Before proceeding further, we must define our terms.
Ideas that proceed from a disturbed state of mind. Ideas that proceed from a disturbed state of mind.
Players who proceed to the finals of the competition.
Proceeding.
Proceeding.
We watched the proceedings in the street below.
At this point in the proceedings, my doctor offered me a choice.
She has begun divorce proceedings.
John is taking legal proceedings against his ex-partner.
The proceedings of the conference.
Proceeds.
Proceeds.
We sold the business and bought a villa in Spain with the proceeds.
The proceeds of the concert will go to charity.
We sold the business and bought a villa in Spain with the proceeds. We sold the business and bought a villa in Spain with the proceeds.
Process.
Process.
The Israeli-Egyptian peace process.
Repetition can help the learning process.
The process of economic change. Getting fit again has been a long, slow process.
The mental processes involved in decision-making.
The natural process of evolution.
Coal forms by a slow process of chemical change.
The digestive process.
The company is in the process of moving to new offices.
There was an armed revolt in process.
I spilled the coffee, burning myself in the process.
I solved the problem by a process of elimination. I solved the problem by a process of elimination.
The car production process.
Recycling is an industrial process.
Goat's cheese may be processed in many ways.
2 million workers are employed processing goods for electronic firms.
All university applications are processed through this system.
The new network will enable data to be processed more speedily.
Processed.
Processed.
The artificial colorings and flavorings in processed foods.
Procession.
Procession.
They marched in procession to the Capitol building.
An endless procession of visitors.
Processional. Processional.
Processor.
Processor.
U.S. tuna processors.
Pro-choice.
Pro-choice.
The pro-choice lobby.
Proclaim.
Proclaim.
The President proclaimed the Republic's independence.
Protesters proclaimed that the girl was innocent. His son was immediately proclaimed king.
The stripes on her uniform proclaimed her seniority.
Proclamation.
Proclamation.
The authorities issued a proclamation forbidding public meetings.
The proclamation of Lithuania's independence.
Proclivity.
Proclivity.
The child showed no proclivity towards aggression. His sexual proclivities.
Proconsul.
Proconsul.
Proconsulate.
Proconsulate.
Procrastinate.
Procrastinate.
People often procrastinate when it comes to paperwork. People often procrastinate when it comes to paperwork.
Procreate.
Procreate.
Proctor.
Proctor.
Procurator.
Procurator.
The Procurator General of the Ukraine.
Procure.
Procure.
He was accused of procuring weapons for terrorists.
The procurement of raw materials from abroad.
Procure.
Prod.
Prod.
Don't go to sleep, she said, prodding me in the ribs.
Theo prodded at the dead snake.
It had prodded Ben into doing something about it.
The strike may prod the government into action.
He's a bright kid, but he needs prodding.
Go on, he whispered, giving me a prod in the back. Why don't you ring the shop and give them a prod?
A cattle prod.
Prodigal.
Prodigal.
A prodigal lifestyle.
Prodigious.
Prodigious.
Some galaxies seem to release prodigious amounts of energy.
The artist's prodigious output.
Prodigy.
Prodigy.
Mozart was a musical prodigy.
Produce. Produce.
New drugs are producing remarkable results.
A rise in sea level produced by climatic change. As a policy, it did not produce the desired effect.
The factory produces an incredible 100 cars per hour.
How did you manage to produce a meal so quickly? This region produces the grapes used in champagne.
Plants produce oxygen.
When challenged, he produced a gun.
They were unable to produce any statistics to verify their claims. Costner produced and directed the film.
An adult cat may produce kittens 3 times a year.
Fresh local produce.
Producer.
Producer.
Hollywood producers and movie stars.
South Carolina is the 4th largest producer of tobacco.
Leading oil producers.
Product.
Product.
Consumer products, such as VCRs.
The London factory assembles the finished product.
He works in marketing and product development.
Paula was the product of a sheltered middle-class home.
The report was the product of 4 years' hard work.
Hemoglobin is a product of red blood cells.
Production.
Production.
The production of consumer goods.
Agricultural production and distribution. High-tech production methods.
By September, the new motors were in production.
The new model will go into production next year.
A drop in oil and gas production.
The skin's natural production of oil.
The new Shakespeare production at the Arts Theatre.
In 1992, green moved into video production.
Entrance is only permitted on production of a ticket.
Production line.
Production line.
Production number.
Production number.
Productive.
Productive.
Most of us are more productive in the morning.
A highly productive meeting.
The economy's productive capacity.
The meeting was productive of several good ideas.
Productivity.
Productivity.
Ways of increasing productivity.
High productivity levels in manufacturing.
It cost the country $4 million in lost productivity.
Product placement.
Product placement.
Prof.
Professor. Profane.
Profane.
Profane language. Sacred and profane art.
Profanity.
Profanity.
Profess.
Profess.
The government professes to care about the poor.
He professed to be an expert on Islamic art. He professed to be an expert on Islamic art.
In court, the man was still professing his innocence.
He finally made up his mind to profess his love for her. He finally made up his mind to profess his love for her.
He professed himself satisfied with the results.
Matt professed no religion.
Professed.
Professed.
A professed atheist.
Their professed aim is to encourage democracy.
Profession.
Profession.
Members of the teaching profession. Some students enter other professions, such as arts administration.
People who work in the professions.
Johnson was a barrister by profession.
Nurses, social workers and other people in the caring professions. Nurses, social workers and other people in the caring professions.
The medical profession.
A profession of faith.
Professional.
What professional qualifications does he have?
It is essential to get good professional advice.
You may need to seek professional help. Professional contacts. This business plan looks very professional.
A more professional approach to work.
A professional tennis player.
A professional army.
A professional hockey team.
The golf tournament is a professional event.
We'd prefer to rent the house to a professional couple. The increasing professionalization of childcare services.
Professional foul.
Professional foul.
Professionalism.
Professionalism.
The dedication and professionalism of our staff.
Professionalism has raised the standard of rugby immensely. Professionally.
Professionally.
Do you need to use English professionally?
The magazine wasn't very professionally designed.
A chance to play football professionally.
The carpet should be professionally fitted.
Professional wrestling.
Professional wrestling.
Professor.
Professor.
Professor Barclay. She's been named the Professor of English.
Ted's a college professor. Who's your chemistry professor?
Professorial.
Professorial.
A new professorial chair.
His beard gives him a very professorial look.
Professorship.
Professorship.
A professorship in Japanese.
Proffer.
Proffer.
Sarah took the glass proffered by the attendant.
Poirot proffered him a cigarette.
The proffered invitation.
Proficiency.
Proficiency.
A high level of proficiency in English.
Nick's proficiency with computers is well known.
Proficient.
Proficient.
Martha's proficient in Swedish.
There's only one way to become proficient at anything. Practice.
A proficient typist.
Profile.
Profile.
Danny has a lovely profile.
I only saw her face in profile.
A short profile of the actor.
Jack runs a department with a high public profile.
The star has a high profile in Britain.
An advertising campaign designed to raise the bank's profile.
The sharp profile of the western foothills against the sky.
The new chief executive was profiled in yesterday's newspaper.
Profiling.
Profiling.
Racial profiling.
Profit.
Profit.
The shop's daily profit is usually around $500.
She sold the business and bought a farm with the profits. They sold their house at a healthy profit. They sold their house at a healthy profit.
There's no profit in letting meetings drag on.
It might profit you to learn about the company before your interview.
There are lessons in these stories that all children can profit by.
Some industries, such as shipbuilding, clearly profited from the war.